Welcome to the Think Tank, where we use critical thinking, deductive reasoning, and a pinch of common sense to draw unbiased and logical conclusions. Welcome back to the Honorable Dion Powell. For those of you who are new, we do this twice a week. We record live on Sundays and we record on Thursday mornings and have it out to you by Friday, Saturday, the latest. And anybody who doesn't know Dion, I'm going to allow him to introduce himself before we get started.
Hey, I'm 70th Assembly District Leader Dion Powell. And if you're a fan of the channel, you might notice that I'm looking very presentable with this stylish shape up. So if you see me in previous episodes, you might not recognize me now. But the continuity, as I say in film, with these glasses I switch up may remind you of who I am. So I'm a consultant, political operative here in New York City. And I'm over here on the right side of history, pun intended, of what's going on here with Uncle Trump. So if you like Uncle Trump, you may love what I had to say and take it and kept inspiring more people to run away off the mental plantation that they keep us in. If you hate Donald Trump's guts, then you might not like me so much because you probably think I'm a sellout and need to be taking my black card and throwing it away. That's me.
Yeah, you are kind of presentable rather than with the scruffy look that you generally utilize. What's up?
Shout out to Africa because I already booked my ticket when I got my income tax to go to Ghana. And I'm putting certain things together. I put my girl back in school and some more things in motion. And I'm feeling good. The campaign I'm working on, yeah, I'm getting paid a little good. Matching funds kicked in with my boy, even though he stretched me out. But I'm on metal now. We got a little understanding because it's just basically me and him, if you think about it. I'm like the one-man campaign team, but the foundation I laid in the Bronx in District 13, which is now Republican City Council, first Republican City Council in 40 years in the Bronx, one of the most bluest counties in America. And he's running as a Democrat, but he's cool with the conservatives because he ran a conservative before. He's cool with the Republicans. He ran with Republicans before. He did business with them. So we're in a good space. He can win. It's just that he has to listen to me, or by fluke, because the community loves him with the debates and everybody's calling me, he killed it. That he may win, but the Democrats are worried because he has a strong uh, um, he doesn't make a lot of noise in the streets because we're very good at that. I mean, this guy is from the streets, kind of, sort of. But one thing I will say here, Leo, which you'll get and a lot of black people will get across the board, whatever your ideology is, I'm just not with the street accounting, and that really irks me. Like, he can do the numbers in his head. I'm not good at math and stuff like that or algorithms, but for me, even I struggle trying to create an Excel with small payroll, expenses, but he's just going off the rip, bomb, 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 5G's here, 200 here, this person, oh, this money, bomb, bomb, bomb. Oh yeah, you blah, 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 blah. Because he's not writing it down. Because some people from the street, they don't write nothing down, especially when it comes to these numbers. And I'm like, yo, man, slow down. Let me write this down. You know what I mean? But it's all love because I really had to cut my phone off for 3 days. I was zoned out. And I called his father, the bishop. He prayed for me and I just, whoosh. But then I started remembering things that he did good for me. Like he got me in the game, He helped me do my first press conference in 2020 when I ran for office the first time on the Joker stairs. And he had people show up and I had some other people we knew, blah, blah. And it was good, but News 12 didn't air it because when I ran up on the freaking cameraman, I was like, what happened? He's like, oh yeah, the sound quality wasn't good because it was raining. I was like, yeah, right. So anyway, I just went over it, the inventory. And now I'm going to give you a little tidbit. Two things. Number one, I talked to my other boy, and since my candidate friend is going to Colombia again during the campaign trail, like he went to DR during the campaign trail this fucking year, this year, I'm asking him to go to Colombia and get an engagement ring for my girl. Because my understanding in Colombia, like other current countries, it'll be easier to get it cheaper, like $200, and it's worth more here with certain appraisals with the actual card authenticity. You gotta know what you look for. He's on the streets anyway, has a network over there in DR. Whereas if I get it in Ghana, I'm not really knowing what the hell I'm doing. That's number one. And but I did go shop on her looking at things when I was there 2023. So that's what I'm trying to get him to bring me back, one of those, with the package. Another thing is in the Bronx, we have these little spots that one day it's $2, one day it's $5, like a whole graph. And you just go in there and buy these items for like $2, $5, $7, trinkets. I'm just gonna try to go there, and there's another spot in the Bronx that's $4. Of course, the Dominicans have this down to a science, and it has Amazon packages. So when you go to this spot, you pay for an Amazon package for whatever reason. It's just there, no label. It's Amazon package, so it's like mystery prices throughout the whole damn store for $4. You go open a package, it'll be a brand new cell phone. You go open a package, it'll be a pen. You see what I'm saying? It's like crazy out there. So I'm trying to get my girl and some other people take some of these items over there and they just flip the money and help them with their business. So that's my little pitch. Sorry to go for a tangent, but I just want to inspire more people, especially black men, to go to Africa and find happiness. Because I'm done in America. And politics is one of the regions, but I'm still trying to follow with Uncle Trump's team to get deployed to Ghana and the embassy. That's the end of my little rant.
Well, let's get started. There's quite a bit to discuss. Let's start with the media since you brought it up. You said yeah, right, because you believe, I'm assuming, that they gave you a false reason for not airing your piece,
Oh, you mean the press conference?
right?
Yeah, that happens all the time, you
That's
know.
what Trump says. Trump says, they don't do things right, fake news. As a matter of fact, he's issued executive orders cutting off NPR and CBS from funding.
Good.
Now, it would be good, especially if they're doing bad things, but
Yeah.
it's not legal.
Well, I disagree, but go ahead.
So explain why you disagree. I mean, doesn't Congress
Oh,
control the purse strings? Doesn't Congress determine who gets money? Aren't they the ones that write the checks basically?
yeah, but as the executive officer of the United States of America, he determines the management of such at the end of the day with the power of his pen. For example, if there's the president can actually delay funding or put like a hiring freeze because he's the executive officer and he does little nuances like that as a businessman. That's straight up point blank. Oh my God, Dion Trump doesn't pay people from his historic situation. But I actually in the Bronx Conservative Party office, shout out in Morris Park, we had a bankruptcy lawyer stumble in our office during our chess game. We struck up a conversation, playing chess. He was like, "Yeah, Trump could teach a master class on how to break the stigma of bankruptcy to your advantage." And I was like, wow, I never thought
That's
of
true.
that thing. He broke down type 1 through 7 of bankruptcies and like, this is why. I was like, wow, that's amazing. But it's Donald Trump. Don't sleep on the man. That's number one.
Yeah,
So
so
anyway,
what he does is he uses he'll have something built and then he'll declare bankruptcy. And when he does the bankruptcy, it means that he doesn't have to pay anybody, but he still gets to keep the benefits of whatever he built. So basically, he uses bankruptcy to rob people. I know how it works.
all right. Well, again, like I said in the green room, as it were, that that inflammatory language can skew the fact of the matter. The fact of the matter is
It's not
this.
skewing the fact of the matter. It's the facts. That's what he does.
All right.
I know
Well,
how it works. I know how it works.
shout out to Ground.news, what we talked about earlier too, off camera, and what she discerns media by ownership and what type of left, right leaning. So anyway, back to answer your question, which is this. I believe it is legal because anything with government funding, they have a power of influence or if you're paying for something. For example, with Harvard, we are subsidizing education. So we don't disagree. We disagree what you're doing. We have the executive officer have a right to pull that funding or put it on hold until you acquiesce, as it were. Just like the tariffs game, Trump is using money as leverage. For example, NPR and things like that nature, he believes, like I do, that it's not reporting the news in a balanced fashion. It's actually skewed to be against anything he does. And there's been a lot of factual things that they're reporting that's an error. For example, George Stephanopoulos, he kept insisting that Trump was a racist. He accused of rape, but that's not true. And Trump, defamation lawsuit, he was right. And ABC and that mothership company owe Trump some money, but they're saying, oh no, he's censorship, he's attacking the media. But no, the fact is, Trump is not accused of rape. He is not a rapist. Understand? No matter how you feel about it, those are the facts. And in the court of law, he is accused of, let's say, sexual assault, but it's not the same thing as being accused of
You were
rape.
just using inflammatory words like crazy. Let's try and
No,
keep it
but
to
that's
like, let's say
true.
the R word and,
Well, you see, Leo, that's nothing. It's censorship. We can't speak.
well, but we are under that censorship, and it's not through the mainstream media. It's under YouTube. which happens his parent company is in bed with Mr. Trump, so it's on both sides.
Well, I think this spills over from the previous administration. But let's take
He
another
didn't
thing.
fix it. He's been in office all that time. He wrote all them executive orders. We still censored.
Well, that's on YouTube, but thanks to Elon Musk and Twitter, well, we were splitting hairs, I guess. But the point is this. So, yes, from viewers like me, because their viewership is getting lower too. So it's like, how do you define these media sources if there's zero viewership at some point? Must we still fund them as a government entity? That will be the bottom line as well. That will sum it up as best I can right now. To move on.
Well, I don't think it's right for him to try and cut funds when he doesn't have the right to cut funds by law. Now, if he went through proper channels, who's to say anything, especially being he controls the Republican Party, he controls the Congress anyway. He doesn't have to break the law.
No, 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 no. Now, once again, you are perpetuating that the Democrats have no leverage power whatsoever. But then again, for people like me, that's why their approval rating is lower than Uncle Trump. They're not doing anything but just blaming Trump for all the world's problems, and that's hurting them when they can introduce legislation and do things like that. But they have a victimhood mentality where they don't even try to apply themselves, except those nut jobs, as it were, like Representative Al Green and Congressperson in Michigan that are trying to bring up on impeachment, but they're making themselves look silly. So that is another talking point that we have on our list.
So let's go through how Congress works very quickly, because some of the things you have me a little confused. You just said things, two completely opposing things, right? If a bill is brought up, how does the bill get through?
You asking me or just putting it out there?
I'm asking.
Well, if you go to, I think, house.gov and senate.gov and those things, there's like a little timeline of your government in which the bill is introduced. It has to go through committee for up and down, or it could just stay there, just like, a record label. They could just shelf it. You know what I mean? And
All right,
then
let's stop at the committee. Let's go to the committee. So what happens that a bill gets through the committee?
when it gets to the committee, whatever political party it has the majority in the Senate, they'll have the chairperson that's in charge of everything. So the Republicans will have a chairperson. But the Democrats, since they're in a minority in both houses, they'll get like the leader of the top ranking Democrat, blah, blah, blah. So there's a lot of back and forth. But again, Leo, when the Democrats
How does
have,
the bill get through?
well, there's research and review. They have to vote on it.
So they vote. So if the other party controls the majority, has the majority, then you cannot push a bill through. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying historically speaking, in a republic, there can be consensus. For example, no tax on tips was pushed through with unanimous consent. I don't want to whip out my Robert's Rules of Order, 12th edition, but that's the way it works when you have people that actually articulate points, put views, and represent their constituency. That's why
So
they
then why is it so wait, under them because you're asking you said two different things. So you're saying they should introduce bills that because they can pass through if they
no,
can
no,
get
no, no,
Republicans,
no,
that's what
no.
you said.
I'm
You said that
saying
you
that
said
when
that they have a victim mentality and they don't introduce
the
bills. Those were
Democrats
your words.
Yes, the
Now,
Democrats do that, but that's not a part of the process. I just explained to you how the process could and should work, but they're not
so
using
if,
it
why
fast.
would they introduce a bill if they know that they can't get it through because the Republicans are not going to vote for it anyway? Is the question.
Oh, good. I'm glad you asked because just like all things, they're not trying to at least be reasonable. Like I said earlier in the show, they're just using their time, effort, energy to blame Donald Trump for all their life's problems instead of what they usually do when they're in charge, which is try to lean on Republicans to flip. With negotiation, the usual deals, but also with the constituency. For example, you could be in a purple state and have Democrats and Republicans have to work hard on both sides for your voting constituency. And somebody
Can
from
you
Senate,
define a purple state for those that don't know?
Michigan is a perfect example. Michigan, with Governor Gretchen Whitmer, I think that's her name. I'm just messing up. She's in an awkward spot because her state loves Trump's policies a little bit more so, and the military. And so that's why she tries to cover her face at these meetings. But Trump's like, nah, come over here in the cabs with me, because indirectly she knows if she doesn't support some of these policies that he's doing on the ground in real time with the automotive industry, she's cooked next election cycle. That's the example of a swing state, as it were, a purple state. It could go either way, and so far, having Republican Congress people and Democrat Congress people, there's no real supermajority like here in New York. You have to work for somebody's votes. So, for example, in New York, I'll give you a perfect case. So, Long Island's Congress people actually voted against the big, beautiful bill because they know on the ground, Long Island, they're really pissed off and they have no chance for running for election. So, Long Island, you could say, is a little purple part of New York State, as it were. And again, this has happened many times. Now, mind you, when Democrats are in charge, they'll blame all of their life's problems on the Republicans when they have the ability to push through anything. It's happened many times when they had a majority in, for example, marriage equality. That got pushed in through no problem because they have all the power from Obama on down. But something like reparations, they just say, all right, well, Republicans are holding everything up. Oh, healthcare, Republicans are holding everything up. And it's like, well, you're the majority. That's a lie. So what you said earlier about the Democrats have no power is not entirely true, because before, when Republicans had no power, for some reason the Democrats would blame them for holding things up, if that makes sense.
Okay, so you're saying historically, when they're in charge, they blame Republicans, so they should try and push bills through that can't be pushed through because Republicans won't let it. Like they're trying to do with the articles of impeachment, which Al Green said he knows that he's not going to be able to push through, and he did differently than what was it? What's his name from Michigan? He did was actually his
Information,
movement.
exactly. Well, let's look up his name. Give him some respect. Let me look up his name.
Is is actually what Al Green did was a lot more intelligent.
Thanador, Congressman Thanador.
Thank you. What he did was a lot more.
Ah,
What he did was so much more intelligent because when Thanador did it, he tried to throw the kitchen sink at him and everything he could, and which meant when Trump beat it, because he inevitably would, none of these things would be able to be brought up again. It would be a double jeopardy type of situation, as if you were in the court of law. In these articles of impeachment, he's throwing something light. He's throwing like a jab rather than the kitchen sink. He's only bringing up something that he knows is going to miss, but he's opening the door to the discussion. That way, when the Democrats have a little more power, he can bring in more serious charges. It's actually an intelligent way to go about it. They're playing chess. You play chess. They're playing chess.
I'm learning how to play
And,
chess. I keep
oh,
practicing. Yeah.
well, he moved the pawn. He moved the pawn instead of throwing out his queen. So let's get into
I get
some of
that.
these other things. I was actually a ranked player at one point in my life. Sheriff Scott pardoned for bribery. Wow. Why would Trump be pardoning people that commit bribery? Oh, he made bribery legal, right? Because, he's a stand-up guy, right?
Well, again, Leo, to what I've said consistently, at least try to. I mean, I could be caught in hypocrisy. I'm human. Um, just like we got to deflect again to history and precedent, because I don't want to say, oh, you're deflecting, but precedent has shown that the power of pardon has been skewed from the previous administration, where you're pre-pardoning people to 2014. So that's what I stand on, in the sense that pardoning can be used as a political tool for whoever the winning team is, and that's it, a get out of jail free card. Now, mind you, the pardon czar is a black woman. So isn't that interesting? So why don't you blame the black woman for doing this, and that she's Trump's tool and all those evil things that you would say? Not you, I'm just saying in general.
I mean, she's doing her job. Trump says he wants a pardon, and she's got to do her job.
It's like
We
Tim
know what
Scott.
happens if you don't
It's like
if you
Byron
don't do your
Donalds.
job under Trump. You know what happens if you don't do your job under Trump. But why is he pardoning people doing bribes? Oh, I mean, you said the power of the pardon was skewed under the previous administration, but I do believe prior to the previous, in Trump point 1.0, he literally was taking $1 million for everybody he pardoned. He was taking money for pardons. He
Well,
used the power
again,
of the presidency and just made money once
people
again.
I say all the time, these people have to understand that politics is politics, just like business. And in a sense, just like the ambassadorship, people could argue that if you give a lot of money to a candidate that's a president, he can make you the ambassador, which historically has happened. So whoever the victor has the spoils. So that's what I want to say about
To
that.
literally take $1 million per pardon is a little wild, bro. I mean,
Makes
that's a
sense.
little wild.
Makes sense. It should make sense to anybody on either side that's at the quid pro quo would work. I mean, that's how people came to this country illegally, if you think about it.
I thought they snuck in at the borders and numbers never seen,
No,
according
no, no,
to.
no, no. There's the black market, my friend. Who facilitates this? Who catches
Listen,
it?
I'm just quoting Trump word for word verbatim.
Yeah, that's
So you're saying Trump
fine.
is lying?
No, the president, like all things, says what he's going to say. This is Trump just being Trump, right, William Barr? And
So let me get this right. So when Trump delivers on something, it's promise is kept, whatever, whatever. But when he's just outright lying, it's just Trump being Trump. It's both ways.
he's just trolling to get people like you to keep his name out there
Well,
every
it's
week.
working because he
Thank
gives
you.
me a lot to talk about. Because not only did he pardon them, but he also pardoned Julie and Todd Chrisley for tax evasion. Gee, bribery and
How
tax
petty.
evasion.
How petty this is. Because remember, we have a black woman, Marilyn Mosby, who got used and abused with her real estate deals, and she kept begging and pleading, scratching and sniffing for Joe Biden to pardon her, and that didn't happen at all. So sad that a black woman was elevated for fighting police brutality just be used, just like Fannie Willis will, just like Tish James will, and Alvin Bragg will. So always remember, folks, Marilyn Mosby, and that name, research how much this black woman in Maryland, the state attorney, got played, and she ended up playing herself with the blue team. So these pardons, again, have been, and on top of that, these two individuals that Trump pardoned are big time, influencers on the right side. So it makes sense as well for that purpose, if you want to know the intent. But either way, the power of pardon, like the president, is just at his pleasure, leisure, and discretion. And that's what the power of the pardon is.
Pay me enough and I'll pardon you. Got it. So the big question, that's what he did, $1 million of pardon. Now you're shaking your head no, like
Because
that's
it's
not the
petty,
standard that he
Leo. It's
set.
petty, Leo, in the grand scheme of things. On
It's
January
not. It
6th,
leads. It's a segue into the big question. You, will he, since he's for take on the pardons, will he pardon Puff Daddy? What you think?
I'm glad you asked. Now, Cash Patel and Dan Bongino are in charge of, I think, the FBI, right? And basically, they wanted these guys to go in there and clean house because they've been harping on a lot of issues. Now, this leads back to Jeffrey Epstein. And right now, they were hoping to blow the lid off Jeffrey Epstein. And sure enough, what did they do? Oh, it was suicide after all. They pissed off so many people over here. It's ridiculous as being compromised. But again, there's certain things you can't touch in the government, no matter who you are in the White House. That was the situation where Jeffrey Epstein touched a lot of, well-to-do, influential people, and also the military. If you notice, those didn't do much with the military because that's the institution like Israel where it is what it is. You know what I mean? So with Puffy, it is possible. Shout out to that homegirl. Her last name is Webb, I believe. I saw on Sabi's channel, and she broke down eloquently how Puffy, Epstein, the music industry, they're all interconnected with this world. Even Obama and the Clintons with this dark underbelly that's been exposed with Hollywood, as it were. So now, is it possible Puffy could get pardoned? It's a strong suit because you do see Donald Trump and his wife in that realm. Now, mind you, his wife had a lot of, I mean, the first lady, excuse me, had a lot of new pictures out there. She's from the fashion industry, and you could tell she loves that. But seriously, so yes, it's possible he probably got caught up in the mix because there's the dark underbelly for politics and entertainment industry that overlaps. Now, mind you, just go back and forth with another boy from the music industry. You met him, Fritz and Phil Gates, because they say, oh, Dion is one and the same, politics and entertainment. Like, no, politics is a little bit different with their vices and how they have more power and control than the entertainment industry and how they manipulate such. For example, with Miss Webb, damn her name, I got to look it up. You got to look her up. She broke it down like, wow, the government actually cut a deal with Eazy-E and some of these other cats to actually make hip hop more violent and stuff like that to actually,
I
expose
covered it.
the
I
issue.
covered it before she did.
Okay, well, it really gets a lot of intrigue
Yes,
and
he was actually
conspiracy.
invited to the White House and sat with the first lady, who at that time was Miss Reagan. Yeah. I covered it. Go on.
No, well,
I just thought
the answer is
I
yes.
thought I'd plug it right now.
Well, the answer is yes, just like with Eric Adams, where Uncle Trump had his thumb on Eric Adams' neck, and Michael was with his potential pardon or dropping the charges. Now, mind you, Eric Adams, whether he knows it or not, actually played into Trump's hands with the outcome because he did Cash Patel's book a shout out, causing stirs and people raised their eyebrows like, hmm. But again, that stench of Trump helping somebody sticks with you forever. And it's still breaking forth. For example, he just released another rapper that just came out with that he pardoned that the mainstream media won't report. And I'll pull up that one out right now because I told my friend,
Please, I didn't hear anything about it. That's
yeah,
very
again, the
interesting.
mainstream media. So I'm gonna pull up
Well,
now.
thank you. I appreciate it. Well, again, the mainstream media agree with you.
Right.
Agreed 100%.
So now let me. Okay, where is it? Now this rapper. Let's see. Sorry, Zoom takes a lot. It's gonna take a little. All right, boom. His name is NBA Youngboy, and it says here, "Thank you, Mr. Trump, for your pardon." So NBA Youngboy, according to what I just got put out there, he just recently got pardoned by Trump. Now I didn't look into it because I'm not in this realm, and so yes. So let's see if that's factually true. If the internet will tell that, because if you ask AI, name all African Americans that Trump has pardoned, or name all the Black people Trump has pardoned, it's not going to give you much, and that's very sad. NBA young boy pardon. Yep. It's in the New York Times, it's in Newsweek, but the algorithm is not really gonna push it to the top of the surface. You know what I mean? And that's what I'm trying
So let's
to.
say that very clearly and very slowly for everybody and YouTube to pick up. According to the research that the Honorable Dion Powell, representing the 78th District of the Bronx, has reported, NBA YoungBoy has been pardoned by Trump. I'm sorry, go ahead.
All right, now I'm not researching this because I have what they call community. I'm in the realm of these people. I'm in these different WhatsApp groups, Telegram, Sigma groups, where information like this is shared real time. So I'm not saying I'm in an echo chamber because there is a lot of back and forth, especially with Israel on the right side, especially with Israel on the left side, and we should just put out there. And I'm like, oh snap, I didn't know that. Or somebody on this side, again, independent media wrote an article or Substack and so forth. That's why I love this realm, and I got this because the white guilt on this realm is much different than white guilt on the how can I say this? The Democratic realm. The white guilt in this realm, if it's pure and it's innocent, even though it's wrapped in ignorance sometimes, it comes from a good place of I want to see you succeed and just do you. And that's what I get over here a lot. You can see the racism very clearly with the snakes and sharks in the jungle. But if you got that pure white guilt, like Staten Island shows me a lot of love in New York City. Right now, my homegirl's trying to get me to become a professor at Wagner College. I was just bald, start crying because that's like my dream job. But she really looks out. And if there's something black,
Good luck.
they get it because they understand. Like my chairman, Pat McManus, the Bronx Third Party, another one who gets it. Irishman, the niggers of Europe. He's like, Dion, these Republicans have to stand that we have to use identity politics too. If it's Black History Month or ethnic event or minority event, it sounds racist, I'm
What's
saying.
up with you today, man? The R word, the S word, the
All right.
N word. Like, yo, like, that's not the alphabet I want to see with you, bro.
Sorry, I'm keeping it real today for some reason. Long story short, they will provide you this information intentionally because they know I would run with it and help try to wake up the African American community. So that's how I got this information.
Thank you. That's
It's not
wonderful
malicious.
information report. That's great.
Yeah,
Now,
it's
you
not
want to make Trump
malicious.
look good? That, like, yo, put that information out there.
No, no,
Even
but
got
that's not the
somebody like me
point.
like this.
But Leo, that's not really the point. As opposed to they get it because they're New Yorkers and like, yo, here's some bullets. Boom, run with it because they can't really go out there like, look at this, Trump's doing something good. They understand the science of human beings where I have to actually use it. Just like the same thing, if it's a racist issue or blah, blah, something wrong, I can present it to them like, yeah, Dion, you're right. This is the facts. Or they can just refute it. And like, nah, I don't see any racism. I don't see any racism here. You see what I'm saying? So it's an interesting realm. But again, you need community. For example, Misery loves company. I don't hang out with people that talk about hip hop all day, every day, or sports every day. That's why I'm not. There's a disconnect, and that's why I don't really have much emotional. Like the Knicks, by the way, I wear my Knicks hat. People give me shouts in the streets, and I'm like, I don't watch any games. I'm just wearing this as a fashion statement, being from New York. Like I'm wearing this Yankees because I'm from the Bronx. I support the Yankees, but I'm not a baseball fan or enthusiast. The Knicks are going to let you down. Not to speak death into the Knicks, but they have no reason to
I
win a
think they
championship.
already have. I think
Yeah,
that
well, you see, I broke it down. So listen, all my emotional investment and trauma from the 90s, early 2000s is still in my heart, mind, and soul. So I can't get into that realm of, investing all that into it, especially money with the sports betting. And so I said, listen, the New York Knickerbockers, if we want to touch sports here for a second, Leo, have no reason as a franchise to win a championship. They have no reason. Why? Because they are in the number one market in the world with the backdrop. They're going to make a lot of money either way. Just like politics, the Democrats make a lot of money, but right now they're making stupid choices with it because they get so much of it to try to destroy Trump. Case in point, they spent $20 million, researching case studies how to get men back onto the plantation to vote for them. And everybody's just laughing at the Democratic Party because they just don't get it.
no, they don't. That is a sad truth there. But things are starting to swing. We'll see what happens to and just in case you don't know, every 8 years there's a swing since forever. We could do the research and look into that a little bit later, but that's just what it is. Those are the facts. It's something that I read in some book, The Whole Pale Horse, back in the 90s. And I said, that's interesting. And I paid attention to it. And every 48 years, it swings the other way. That's an actual fact. So it has, and it is a lot of reasons for it, but I won't. And the book broke it down, but I won't get into all of that now. We have way too much to discuss, and we're burning too much time on other things.
Yeah, Leo has to, get breakfast together or something.
So Trump has laid off 100 personnel from the National Security Council. They've been put on leave, rather. Why is
Okay.
he decimating the National Security Council?
You see, that's again,
What is it? What is the National Security Council first?
let's
For
see.
those that don't know, real quick.
I can't go off uh, the top of my brain. I just want to make sure, like Obama said, I want to say what I know what I'm talking about.
Like that makes sense. I'm with that.
All right. The Rubio's like he's got his work cut out. All right.
That's because he's wearing too many
It's a
hats.
national issue by the United States to consider national security, military, and foreign matters. There you have it. So one of the reasons he's doing this, just like with NPR and the rest of the media that's government funding, he has a lot he doesn't trust the federal government, rightfully so, after all they took him through, if you know what I mean. That's why he's out for revenge. And it has been proven, just like Joe Biden's cognitive condition, there was a massive cover up. There's something called the Her Report with the Asian, investigator. They interviewed Biden. Now, all of a sudden, tapes are coming out, and people are trying to pull them off their book about how people knew that Biden was horrible and deteriorating, other people controlling the government. So with National Security Council too, now I can't speak to as well if they're part of it, but probably so. They use the government during his whole time period to go after him, as it were. Oh, Trump is just saying they're going after me, but no. Now that Cash Patel's there, Don Bongino, Bundy, they're actually seeing on record that yes, with the Russia Gate, the government and social media coordinated with Hillary Clinton to put out all these bad things about Trump and Russia. Understand? Mark Zuckerberg blew the whistle for himself, where these kind of security agencies came in and strong armed him like, yo, you need to fix this Facebook problem with this misinformation and disinformation. When in actuality, it's just us talking to each other. And we would have to discern that our marks ourselves. So that's what I'm assuming that he's going after them for, like the other agencies that he doesn't trust that came after him or do bad things, like with Hunter Biden's laptop, which even I back then was like, whatever. But then when I got in this realm with these folks, they would just put the facts. No matter if you have a freaking KKK swastika around your neck, here are the facts, Dion. Boop. I was like, wow, you're the biggest racist I've ever met in my life. But I can't dispute these facts. So I separate my emotions from the situation. And those are examples I would give to you as to his motive or his realm's motive. Because remember, this affects people like Kennedy too and Tulsi too, a veteran who was put on the I think the terrorist radar when she traveled with her husband. And what did she do? She made Kamala Harris look stupid and blah blah. These are facts. Okay. And this should emotionally, hopefully, get you to react and say, hey, I should look into this further and may red pill you like my brother, my boy, Rashard, who came onto your show, who was completely red pilled with his timeline with hating Trump's guts to where he's right now beating his chest break to wear a red hat. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of brothers like that and other people too in the black realm if you want to just keep it there. But that's my answer.
Okay, so he's touching on people that he feels have wronged him, and you feel
No,
that
no,
he's
no, that are abusing their power. Let's just make it blanket. Because remember, this goes back to Hunter Biden. That had nothing to
well,
do with him.
he's kind of doing the same thing going in retaliation. So two wrongs make it a left,
This is justice, not
three is
revenge.
right.
This is like Batman said about Mr. Freeze. This is more justice than revenge. Okay? Because Hunter Biden got pardoned to 2014. And now he's exposing with the laptop, or the network in my room, exposing with the laptop about all the horrible things Hunter Biden did because he was just a bad son, cracked out. And he made Bill Clinton look like a choir boy. This man had baby mothers everywhere. His father had actually sued his last baby mother because she wanted to give the baby the Biden last name, and so she couldn't do it. It's like really bugged out
I didn't know that was crazy.
when you're in this realm. Exactly, and that's what I try to harp on our platform is that the internet has warped, the media has warped information real time to skew public opinion and control the masses. But it's not working anymore. Again, with funding and NPR, the viewership and trust is going down. CNN's viewership is going down. Fox News is going up, you mind you. Disney is going down. You say, I don't think I used the word woke agenda here many times, but gotta say that agenda, whatever it is, across the board with the fourth branch of government, the media, it's not resonating. So viewership is down, public trust is down, and it's either in limbo or just showing, trying to discern itself, or it's just going more to Trump. You know what? Maybe Trump is right. And that's a t-shirt I would rock in the hood. Donald Trump was right about everything.
Absolutely not. But he is seeming to be right in the eyes of the courts about quite a bit. In actuality, he's this week won quite a few of the most important court cases that he could, even though he lost one major one. He's decimated the courts this week, starting with the fact that Doge can now once again access government information, even though Elon Musk is stepping down.
Well,
So,
Doge, I keep telling people all the time, Wikipedia, what Doge is. It's from a government agency. It's just a rebranding of a government agency. People are like, oh no, Congress, this and the third. No, it's just a rebranding of government. For example, I'm of the belief that New York City's public schools, public housing, and public transportation, those agencies need to be doged, if that's a term I can coin, because we all know they waste a lot of money and aren't very effective. So if they came into the Department of Education, these people will cry, guilt you, and shame you if they clean house. Yes or no? But we all know and they need to clean house. A lot of people don't like Trump. A lot of people actually like Trump's policies on this side. But people on the side will even tell you as well that they don't like the way that he's doing it. He's just battering ram every day. Boom, executive, I don't care what the consequence. So you can see even on this side, like right now, Pam Bondi did something that really had people on this side pissed. They once a year ago. So you see on this side, people can have a discourse in which there are sort of checks and balances. There's not a cult like people think it is. These people will flip on you on a dime. Like what Kennedy recently did, his vice presidential candidate, Nicole Shanahan, went on social media. Either he lied to me or Trump was doing something. I didn't, agree to this. You see, on the Democratic side, they are willing to toe the line in a certain extent, but now even they too are starting each other. But on this side, it's an issue of policy, procedure, and outcomes. Where on their side, it's just more ideology, racism, and certain policies, but it's all more emotional. On this side, it's just factual information. And we'll get to Kennedy too. Shout out to him.
so you are saying that Trump's motivations are based on facts.
No, I didn't say that at all.
Well, you just said on that side, and you're and
No, I
that
didn't say
side right
Trump.
now is Trump's MAGA
Okay,
Republicans.
you're amalgamating a situation when it shouldn't be, if I use a big word, in which I'm talking about the supporters, the voters. how they could flip on you on a dime. And the influencers could flip on you on a dime and they're not scared to speak out publicly in order to correct their system. Like, wow, they should pick Gates to be the attorney general. Get rid of her now because of what she did. Cash Patel and Don Bongino, they need to go. Remember, all those people love those guys, but as soon as they didn't blow up Epstein and they're saying they're covering it up for whatever purpose and say, yeah, he did commit suicide, these people want to eat them. That's how bad, well, not everybody, but these people want to eat them. But there is a voice of reason. With Kennedy, there is a voice of reason. Like, yeah, he can only do so much because he is working for Trump. This is the boss. But Kennedy subtly is getting things through. For example, a lot of people wanted that brother from Florida, the black Surgeon General of Florida, to be the Surgeon General of the United States because he's the first doctor, Surgeon General in America that said, nah, this COVID vaccine is not what it is. You know what? COVID is not what you think it is. We can do this, that, and the third. A black man, of course, the media is not going to elevate him to prominence in the spotlight. But the Surgeon General of Florida is a black man that was totally against this whole COVID stuff. Wasn't scared to, tell Ron DeSantis what to do to keep the state open. It'll be fine. Now, when they did not appoint this brother to Surgeon General of the United States, the MAGA folks on my side, because I'm privy to certain information, they were pissed that Trump picked the people that he put in now by name. Like, they're not qualified. They're not going to speak out against COVID vaccine injury, blah, 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 blah. Again, like I said, Nicole Shanahan had a whole blog on Twitter, X, whatever. And that's the way it is. But then again, Kennedy, you got to give and take. There's a lot of things Kennedy are doing good, a lot of things you could disagree with, but that's the way it should be. It shouldn't be unilateral. You know, Republicans are pushing back, Democrats are pushing back. And that's when people start to work together. Well, at least they should, but the Democrats just hate Trump all day, every day. He needs to go to jail.
I mean, well, he's a felon. So we're back to Doge.
So is Martha Stewart.
She did time. So back to Doge. You said that they are a rebranded government agency when that is not actually true.
Let's see
There
this.
was an agency that did in fact do what Doge did, and that was put together by Congress. Doge is working outside of congressional authority, put in place by an executive, some would say authoritarian or dictator or whatever term they want to use. But that is the dictatorial. I don't know the word. I can't pronounce the word, but it's like it was put together in a dictatorship fashion where the Congress is supposed to be able to have authority over all of that. And Trump is just like, nah, I'm shoving my people in. And that is not a rebranding of an existing agent. He created a
Just
new
like any
agency.
CEO, he has the prerogative to do certain things. Case in point, we released $100 billion into education, but Trump is saying, all right, seeing as though, you wasted this area, I have the executive power to actually fire everybody, shut down the department. Now, the money will still be there, but it's not going to be mismanaged. It's just going to be there. I'm going to put a freeze on it. That's what CEOs have the right to do with the budget. And if the Congress
Actually, the courts seem to agree with you
no, I'm not,
because the next
but I know politics.
because the next win that he got in the courts was the courts declared that he can indeed not fund schools based on their DEI stance. So if a school has DEI as part of their prerogative and their nature and their function, he can defund the schools. He does not have to. He now, according to the courts, cannot send funds to school that follow DEI. That's another Trump win.
But guess what? If you remember history politically, remember when they struck down affirmative action for education? So that means, again,
2022.
what?
No, go ahead.
When they struck down affirmative action, the least the education portion, his argument is something like affirmative action. It makes you implement certain things that people would disagree with. For example, affirmative action would enable certain things like gender affirming care to come in because you can't discriminate anymore. It's mandatory. Even though people, parents, and shout out to Moms for Liberty, they're like, no, I don't want my child learning that with public money. I don't want my public money going to help my young 14-year-old daughter, get abortions. I want to know what's going on with my daughter, and before she decides to get an abortion because she's in a safe space in your school. But now he's removing those protections and saying, hey, by law now, I don't have to do it. It's now at the discretion of Linda McMahon, baby. Yeah. And if you look at Linda McMahon's social media, she's just straight up to the point. Here the facts. She's not really controversial like her husband Vince. And yeah, but then again, when it comes to education, I'm a big proponent and push something called hashtag school choice because a lot of black people are saying, I don't care. I'm taking my children off the grid. Now, according to wow, the National Black Home Educators, yeah, that's the organization I, try to deal with. Black homeschooling since 2020 to present has
We're
gone
gonna do
from,
education another time. You're like we've been on here for 40 minutes. We have a half hour
yeah,
left. We
I'm
haven't
getting
gotten even a
passionate this
quarter of the
morning.
way through. You've been running on
I'm
tangents all
manicky
morning.
today. I'll pop my pill. I'm sorry.
It's all good. It's all good. I'm gonna have to bring you back in focus. That's all. Um, so another Trump win. You did touch on it. He's able to control funding, right? So he defunded a female prison that allowed a transgender man to enter. Well, he wasn't transgender, he was a man that identified as a woman.
You see, now
And
you're going to get canceled after all that I said.
no, I'm just trying to actually report accurately. So he defunded the prison, a female prison, for allowing a man that identified as a woman to enter into it. And once again, he's that DEI thing. Like, what you're a dude. You can't play women's sports. You're not going into a
So
female
Trump is
prison.
finally right about something.
Listen. When he's right, he's right. He's right. I can't argue with it. I'm just reporting it. There's nothing to talk about. He did it. Good job. The Supreme Court also ruled that Trump can claim anyone is an enemy of the state, and they have to see Judge Boosberg in Texas now.
Another
They
one.
Oh, this is a huge win for him. Now, Trump can deport immigrants. They do get their due process. Due process, for anybody who doesn't know, just means you get your day in court. So due process is important. You get your day in court. You don't want to get pulled over by the police, give it a ticket that says you were doing 90 and a 20.
There are more nuances, so do your research, people.
There are more nuances. I am
Like Murphy's
making
Law.
it abbreviated. I'm abbreviating it, but the due process basically is that you get your day in court. And they're streamlining it. These people are going to get their day in court. They're just not going to be happy with the outcome because basically it's going to be like, okay, you get to see the judge, guilty next. And if they're here illegally, that's true. But you have certain people that were sent away that are now not going to even get their day in court because the judges also ruled that the judge that said that they were sent away illegally was outside of his jurisdiction. I think that was Boosberg. He was outside of his jurisdiction, saying that the courts weren't supposed to send him away or send them away, like Garcia. So they're just going to have to stay because the judge that ruled they weren't supposed to be sent didn't have the authority. So now everybody that was sent to places like El Salvador will have to stay, and
Their
for future
country.
future immigrants are going to just see a judge really quickly and get deported. It has now been streamlined. That is Trump's biggest win. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. And that way it's how do you say GTFOH? Can I say that? Like sugar honey iced tea. Yeah, so yes. For example, like we discussed a month or two ago when we started the podcast, that the local courts, the state courts, were putting stays on things to leverage Trump when they wouldn't want it to go to the Supreme Court for this fashion because it is outside their scope, like abortion, like it used to be anyway, so before it struck down. So yeah, it's a good win. And just like the definition of a citizen and the rights of a citizen. For example, you can't just have anybody fall out of the sky and stay in New York for 30 days and then be able to vote because that's the law they were trying to push. Then again, somebody could just come out of a submarine like in World War II and hop in New York as spies. You want to have a process in place where it's like discretion. That person is guilty. That's it. Get out.
Well, that's what he did for the better or worse. That's what's happening now. You mentioned RFK. He banned 36 foods now. He's 90% of which I happen to agree with. I mean, in California, if you go there, you can't get yellow 5 and red 3, like, because I don't know, they will cause autism and cancer.
Huh?
But so right now, the government, the United States government, is trying to get into crypto. They're trying to use a coin called XRP. Black people, we need our own coin. It's been done. It's been developed by a group of some of the most greatest minds in the world. I am in complete support of it. It's called blackdollar.io. It's the Black People's Bitcoin, blackdollar.io. It's not .com, .io is what text use, blackdollar.io. This is the Black People's Bitcoin. Let's get together. But the rest of the country,
Leo, you can't say that. You can't say that because in my groups, that's the red flag because they will quickly shut you down if you say those things. Like with the Amish again, there's something
hold
called
up, wait a minute, but that's what Kennedy's saying. So now I can't say what Kennedy's saying?
no, but you can, but I'm just trying to tell you the pushback, blowback, and what happened to you as a result and how that is fake news. For example, something called factcheck.org, which actually fact checks everything Trump does, and they disprove that as well. So
They disproved what?
what you just said. If you put that on the internet right now that foods cause autism or vaccines cause autism, the whole SEO will come up. That's fake. That's fraud. That's fake news. They'll fact check it.
Well, every other country in the world and California have determined this. The United States are the only ones that eat many of these foods, and we're the ones that suffer obesity and sickness. So maybe it's fake news, but maybe not. I don't agree with many of the things that Trump and Kennedy do, and I support this 200%.
One man's fake news is another one's facts, huh?
Isn't it wild that so see how wild it is? So the things that I do support, but see, I do support. I'm not completely against anybody. I'm for the facts, and the facts are that these have scientifically been proven to cause certain things. And I agree with someone who comes in and says, "Okay, we're going to support science," especially when science hasn't been a main way of deciding what we're going to do next. It's just not been the way we streamlined our order of operations. And in this particular case, it's following the science. I am happy that the science is being followed. Later
But
for what people think and anything else,
no,
this is
Cleo,
the
I'm trying to tell you,
science.
it's not the science because again, this is being fact checked. If you try to follow the science, like my friend who's Trump the range, you won't find any scholarly articles or peer reviews to prove what you just said or what Kennedy said, because he's obviously a crackpot. But like I tell people all the time, your mother is not a doctor, but she can determine if you're sick and what it's from and what it's called from. Walking barefoot in
Well,
the
you
house.
might not be able to find it here, but the rest of the world seems to know it. And California followed suit. And maybe it's not true, but maybe the science that was going on up until now is true. And now that science is being disproven, now you can't find it because science doesn't exist. Like pollution doesn't make you sick. Maybe that's the cause. Who knows? We have too much to cover and we've segued too far. We both made our statements on it. Science has been disproven once again. And going forward, let's talk about something from the past once again. Trump and Putin. You brought him up. And Putin, after declining to meet to talk peace talks, to have peace talks, has done the biggest airstrike that he's done in Ukraine since the wars began 3 years ago. 500 drone strikes, many of them on civilians, not military installations, in 3 days. This is now Trump, via Truth Social, says he always knew that Putin wanted all of Ukraine and not just a part of it, and it's going to lead to the downfall of Russia. Even the German Chancellor Merz chimed in and told Ukraine, gloves off, You can now strike deep inside of Russia to hit military installations because Russia is not really about peace talks. They're trying to take everything. We've talked about this many times. Now Trump is aboard. Has and my reporting in the past was I wonder when Trump is going to realize that Putin is lying to him and he's not going to stop. And I was wondering what it would take. It appears that the biggest drone strike since the war began might have been the final trigger that Trump finally seen it. As a MAGA supporter, do you think that Trump has finally opened his eyes, or do you think that Putin changed his mind?
Well, the first thing I've been saying about this is one aspect of the political game that Trump is not strong in when it comes to war. He is more peace, and he doesn't care how it gets done. And if you look at the previous administration that he had, he's all about peace, being buddy buddy and cutting deals. And he was very good at that with Putin, blah blah. He make jokes. Yeah, don't steal election again. Ha ha ha. Let's try to work something out. But when it comes to military conflicts, I don't think that's going to be strong suit because he went to that naval academy, mad blah blah blah, whatever his past history. Sometimes bullies like Trump have never been in fist fight in their life, and that's a problem when it's like now it's time to be about that life. You know what I mean?
Well,
Um,
that's a problem. That's a problem when you got more wars going on than any time in recent history, and he thinks he's just going to come in and talk and solve things when that is so. If you're about making deals, right, and that's supposed to be his big thing, he makes deals. That's Trump, right? You have to understand that sometimes deals are not going to go through. Everybody's not going to agree. People want what they want, and if you're not giving them what they want, no matter what you offer and how sweet you talk, you're not going to get it. If this man wants Ukraine, I don't care how good you speak, how much deals you cut, nothing's going to happen unless he gets Ukraine. And if you can't understand that, then you're a terrible deal maker.
that's not true.
Terrible,
That's
because
not
it's
true at all.
terrible. Because you have to know when how you gonna make a deal with somebody if you don't know. Well, this is what here's the art of making a deal. If you want to, if you have to understand the motivation behind what makes somebody do something. I believe there was a guy who wrote a book. He used to be a oh God, what was it? Gosh, I'm trying to remember his name. He wrote one of the best-selling books ever. He actually was a negotiator for the FBI. What he did was he talked people. He was a hostage negotiator, and he got people out. And in his deal, you don't negotiate. You get what you want, and you can't afford to lose because when you lose, people die. So he is a negotiator. He did not lose. He did not lose. Even Trump loved him, endorsed his book.
The
The
Trump is a
man doesn't
liar.
lose. That's true too.
Trump is a
But
con man.
that's also true. But it doesn't stop the facts. This guy was a beast. So in his book, the way he explained it was you have to understand what motivates somebody. And then so there's always something you don't know. Call it a double blind if you want. It's an unknown unknown. There's always he called it a black swan. There's things you know, the things you don't know, and the things you don't know, as explained on the Boondocks episode, because that was based on this book. And if you have an unknown unknown, that's the black swan. Like they called it a black swan because no one had ever seen a black swan, so they didn't exist until they saw one. Now you know it exists. So it's an unknown unknown. You can't gamble on seeing a black swan if they don't exist. The unknown unknown was they actually exist. Now you have the unknown of where they're going to be. It's kind of like so you have an unknown unknown in a negotiation tactic, but the fact that Putin wanted Ukraine was a known was known, and even if it wasn't known, you have to try and figure out what somebody wants before you can even conduct a negotiation. I can't convince you of anything if I don't know your underlying needs and wants. So if Trump didn't understand that Putin wanted Ukraine, if he doesn't understand that Israel wants to wipe out Gaza, if he doesn't understand that the white South Africans want to keep control of South Africa, if he doesn't understand what people want, he can't negotiate with them because they're not going to give in to anything because they're not getting what they want. He can't even give them a piece of what they want to appease them because that's not what they want. You're offering them something. If I want milk for my cereal, you can't offer me bread. I'm gonna look at it like I'm kind of hungry, but I do got the cereal, and man, I just need milk. You can offer me eggs. I'm like, dag, eggs and bread. That would make my that's and bacon. It's a good breakfast, but I'm really I want the cereal, bro. Give me the milk. You offer me all these things, and you're not giving me what they want. And I'm not saying you're supposed to give in to terrorist acts or these, but you have to understand what they want in order to be able to negotiate with them. And if he doesn't comprehend that, he is a terrible negotiator. He's just accepting bribes.
Okay,
Now,
go
go
on. I see you're in the zone, and thank you for your service because Leo is a veteran, so this might be a sticky subject for him. So I just want to say this: people have to remember how we got here and why. These military conflicts on this scale didn't happen under his previous administration. That's number one.
they're
Number
escalating under
two,
it.
well, again, how you going to fault the man? No, so let's just
The
say
one
this.
who's going to end it on day one, now
Well,
realizing that he can't.
okay. So again, like I said, military conflicts, I don't think Trump's strong suits in this realm. The next thing is, how did we get here? When it comes to war, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I'll defer to you. Sometimes in leaders' minds, you're beyond the point of no return. There's no turning back. Look at the war of Afghanistan, which, again, the previous administration botched when Trump tried to squash that as well, and Iraq as well. But the point is that with Putin, you said earlier, what is his intent? What is his motive? But look what happened. Zelensky killed a lot of his people, destroyed a lot of his stuff. And now Putin's probably a guy like this. And I got to prove to my people, I'm not effing around. I'm gonna have to take Ukraine now because we've lost a lot on our side,
So
and
that
it's a
he was
part of
stringing Trump
Ukraine.
along all the way. If that's what he decided, then all these peace talks was him stringing Trump along. Bad
Like,
negotiator.
well,
He didn't
fine,
know he
but
was
keep in
being strung
mind,
along.
the thing is, Trump again is a businessman, and he knows win-loss scenarios and lose to win scenarios and lost scenarios. So now
So
I'm
then
ready.
he should have realized he, as a businessman, as a negotiator, he didn't realize he was being strung along when I've been telling you this since we started this thing.
But what did I say? I believe that military conflicts are not his strong suit because he didn't
We're
have.
not talking about military conflicts. We're talking about business. Because
But
war is
this is not
business.
okay. Well, let's okay. Good. I'm glad you said that because remember, Trump cut off Ukraine from our using our troops as consultants, using our weapons and our money. Trump cut that off. So that was a great business move. On top of that, he leveraged Zelensky and said, "Hey, we want some of your resources and minerals to actually pay us back." So that was the business deal. See,
Well,
no one had to
that he
die
did
about
good in.
that.
That he did good in. He did good in that. What he did bad in was the other side. He
Okay.
leveraged, so he was able to leverage power over somebody who needed him. But when it came to negotiating on an even playing field, such as somebody that's they're going to go and take something and trying to actually negotiate that out, when it's an even playing field instead of somebody he has leverage on, he can't negotiate.
But not just
Putin
that.
and
He
Putin's tied
understood.
to the United States. So Zoom left, Microsoft left, McDonald's left, and Putin's like, you know what? We don't even want you back. We're going to start our own.
Good. That's smart. Just like America used to do the
I
same.
agree. I agree. So
So
now hold up. So let me ask you a question. So does that mean you're saying that Putin is doing something right by not going back to America?
yes, and no, it's called sovereignty. Remember that vocabulary, sovereignty. That's why we shouldn't meddle in this war in the first place, because these two countries have sovereignty, and we should stay out the whole thing. And Trump was very big on getting our money out of these countries. Same thing with Israel. That's why the America first on
But
this side.
Trump's all over Israel. That's not the same thing.
No, that's not true at all.
Trump's
Because
not supporting Israel.
not on the scale that they would like. Actually, he's
That's
married
not
to
the that
Israel.
wasn't the question. Is he supporting Israel in the war? Unlike Ukraine. Yes, because it's against blacks and not whites.
Oh, here we go. Now
That's what it
that is
is.
offensiveness.
So
Nobody
then what's
cares.
so then what's the reason?
These
So then
people in
what's the reason?
Ukraine don't care, Russia don't care, and Israel don't
What
care.
is
Maybe that's
the
another reason we should
reason?
pull out.
What's the reason? Why is it okay that Israel wants to commit genocide, but Russia can't attack. What are the differences other than the people that are being attacked?
Again, in both scenarios, Trump is not doing anything. How about that?
He's helping Israel.
Well, that is true too. But did you know, even though there's a war happening, we're still doing business with Russia as well? So,
Absolutely.
no, there you
Absolutely. We're
go.
well, listen, we're doing business with Russia, but we ain't doing it with Gaza. We ain't doing it with South America. South America came here, the president came here trying to negotiate. All he wanted to talk about was the whites that were being killed, where he was trying to show proof of it, and he was lying about that. And that's been proven. Anyway, let's move forward. We're running out of time. So he wants to leverage student visas for social media vetting. What do you think?
What does that even mean?
So he wants to go through people's social media to determine if they should be able to get visas.
Makes sense to me. They do it for jobs all the time.
I can't disagree with that. It makes sense to me too. Like, yo, if you're part of an extremist group and it's on your social media, why would I let you into the country?
Why would I
I,
educate you to help you?
I, why would I want to let you in? Later, take everything out. Why would I bring a terrorist into the country if I can go through your social media and you're like Alabama, whatever the heck,
Thanks to the Biden administration, because they sure did do it at the border when they opened the floodgates.
I am agreeing with Trump. Aren't you happy? We mentioned that Al Green brought up the articles of impeachment. $3 billion of grants to Harvard that were slated for Harvard are going to be diverted to trade schools where they're trying to do what we discussed last episode. And in the great big beautiful BS bill, they're trying to they're trying to make it so that they can determine who gets student loans to be able to go to levels of higher education. The government gets to decide if you're worthy of a student loan or if you should just go to a trade school. The government gets to decide. I wonder
This
who's
is
going to
like
be
the
the
previous
beneficiary.
episode. It's called vetting. How about that vocabulary word?
So the government gets to vet who deserves to go to who. The government gets to vet who deserves a higher education and who deserves to have to go to a trade school. The government gets to vet that now.
Just like
That's what
other
the bill
areas.
says.
Yes,
And
just like other areas.
now $3 billion is going toward making that happen.
Beautiful. Hashtag school choice again, like I said earlier.
No, it's exactly the opposite. It's exactly the
No,
opposite. You don't get
no,
a choice. The government determines where you belong. That's what the
no.
bill says. The
That's true.
government
That's not
determines where
true.
you. That's
That's not
literally what
true.
the bill. We read the bill.
It's talking
We
about funding, not
read.
free will.
I'm sorry.
It's
One
talking
more
about
time.
funding, not free will. The fact is
No,
this.
no. The
Just,
bill says the government gets to determine where you get funding to go to school. It
no,
does, if the government decides that you're
it's the
not worthy for
IRS.
higher education, then you have to go to a. They will only fund you to go to a trade school. Not that you can't go to school, but they get to determine where you go. They get to determine the type of education you get.
Okay.
That doesn't sound like a democracy.
That is why you shouldn't rely on the government in the first place. Now, the word democracy is not even in this thing. So,
So wait a minute. So basically, what you're saying is the government should be able to determine who gets loans based off who they feel should get loans
just
to
like the
go to
bank,
school.
just like the banks with student loans.
They're determining.
Humble, humble,
No,
humble.
they're not going by credit. They're not going by any of that. They're looking at a person and deciding that that person does not deserve to. The person does not deserve a chance to get a higher education.
You're gonna have to show me this in writing this time.
I
Share the
did.
screen. I gotta see this in writing now.
I gotta show. We don't even have time this episode. You didn't.
Oops. Well, Leo, sorry about that. On to our regular schedule programming. Criminals that tried to
Gosh.
kidnap Gretchen Ritmer, they're going to be pardoned as well. Dion, is that good, bad? Otherwise, I don't care. It's at the president's discretion. 30,000 job cuts slated for the Barry Thomas.
Hold on. Let me see if I can pull
Affairs.
this up
That's a
quickly.
bad thing, I guess.
This is the bill.
50%
What are we
hike
talking
on European
about?
goods. Education. He's cutting education for evil. Make sure people can't get educated who's black. That's what he's trying to say.
No, that's not the part. How do I do this? Let's go here. And I gotta share it. I don't think that's the one. Hold up, is that? Oh, there's 14 of them. Let me share this and see if I can find it very quickly, because this is the biggest product. This is the biggest part of the bill to me. All right, so this section changes the way student eligibility for need-based federal aid is calculated by basing the calculation on the median cost of attendance by program of study from all institutions of higher education that offer such programs of study rather than the cost of attendance of a student-specific program is determined by the HE. So it's not determined by cost anymore. It's it's by attendance by program of study from all institutions of higher education. What does that mean? That
Exactly. What does it
means
mean?
cost of attendance by program of study. So if you are, it's not calculated by basing cost by the cost of attendance by how much it costs. It's not the money has nothing to do with it. Let's see what is okay.
That's AI.
No, this is the .gov bill something or another.
Yeah, but
All
actually,
right.
I had to break it down. What does that mean?
No, that's not it's in the bill. Let's find it right quick.
Yes, that they're making sure that black kids can't go to school. I want to see that in
It
writing.
doesn't say black kids in specific. That's illegal.
The children of color,
It doesn't
disadvantaged.
say any of that. It just says that the
Come on
government gets to
now.
determine. You decide
Be
what they
racist.
determine it. This this section establishes promoting real opportunities to maximize investments in education. To receive a promised grant, must HE must meet maximum total price guarantee requirements. These grants may be used to carry out. No, that's not it. Repeal several rules and regulations. Moves references to gainful employment. Electricity. That's not it.
Well, I think you should present that the next episode because eating up your own time, our time, something. I don't know.
That's veterans education. Let's see if I can find it right quick. No, I did not find it very quickly. Ah, man. And I don't know what term you're right. I'm not gonna eat up too much of this time. I did this in a previous episode. I will. I have to find it. This is making me upset.
You find the previous episode too, so you can show me that as well.
I
Show
did.
us, the viewer.
I actually didn't know about it and stumbled into it while we were doing the previous episode. I didn't even know. I read it and was completely thrown back. Like I didn't know that was in the bill till we were going over it, talking about SNAP and Medicaid, and stumbled into it.
Again, like I said on the previous episode, maybe that the bill is now in the Senate. Let's see what they do, and that's a fact.
That offers program of study rather than oh, that is it. That's it. That is it. That's it in black and white. Ah, there we go. All right. So, all right. This was it. The section changes the way student eligibility for need-based federal aid is calculated by basing the calculation on the median cost of attendance by program of study from all institutions of higher education that offer such program of study rather than the cost of attendance, rather than the cost, student-specific program is determined by their IHE. So the program, instead of using the cost to determine how much what you get for school, it's the program of study. They get to determine your program, this specific program as determined by IHE. They
Okay,
so basically they're
this
saying that they get to determine if you get student loans based on what you're going to school for. That's
good.
what it
So,
says.
okay, now, okay, you know what that says to me? That says that if you're going to school to get a bachelor's degree into intergender studies, for example, that's a waste of money, time, and loans because there's no real productive career in society on a massive scale. So it would make sense to put the money and send you to a trade school where you actually have something that's consistent, like plumbing, which is always lucrative industry, no matter who's in the White House, and for the past 100 years. So makes sense to me. That's
So
what it says to me.
basically, you're okay with the government telling you what you can go to school for. Got it. Because that's what
If
you
they're
just
paying
said.
for it, yes. If they're paying for it,
It's
yes.
not paying for a loan is not paying for it. If I come to you and I'm like, yo, I need a loan, and you're like, are you gonna be like, yo, what you need it for? Or you gonna be like, oh, what's my interest rate like a bank would? Like that's
Makes sense to me.
that's so the government will now control which our kids can go to school for. No, that's not going to
They've
target black
always
and
been
brown people.
controlling
That's in my mind.
education. That's why it's horrible. This is beyond Trump at this point.
That's not. This is what Trump wanted in the bill. This is the bill that he's pushing. 50% hike on European goods starting next week on June 1st. What the heck? What is Trump doing, bro?
Okay.
50% hike on
So
European goods?
he's, well, remember, Europe is not really signing with us in this tariff war. So makes sense.
Well, I thought they had a deal. Oh, wait, maybe I was right and he was lying. Maybe that deal wasn't worth anything. And, it's kind of like I said about the deal when it first happened. Revoking visas for Chinese students.
China.
If they're involved with the Chinese Communist Party, what do you
CCP,
think?
yes. I think it's great. Next issue.
So you think it's good to revoke Chinese visas?
Do you know what the CCP is, Leo?
I
I
didn't
explain
disagree
to
with you. I
everybody.
asked you a question. But
But
go
I
ahead. Why don't you
said,
explain it for the viewers? For the viewers, explain it.
just like Russia, it's communism. And these guys could be spies working for the government, using all American education resources to help a foreign agent. And that's why student visas and some other things should be used to exploit our resources and educational system that our people don't either have access to or appreciate or use.
Later for access and appreciate. The first part you said was enough for me. What you just said was, why should we invite people to this country that are obviously coming here and not and against the country? It's kind of like we said earlier with the other visas. Oh, I don't remember which one it was because he's doing so much.
Right. For
But
example, immigration is great. Illegal immigration, they argue we need, but think about it. And this is the argument on this side. These people come here and they do so great for our economy, but when they receive the money, they don't circulate it in this country. For example, a
that's
family
not
from
the reason. The reason is this: he thinks they're spies,
well,
and if they're working for the
I'm just
Communist
giving you
Party,
an example. That's one example. But then again, I'm talking about in the broader sense that when it comes to economics, and I'm not good at it, but this is a simplistic way. When these people all over the world come here for education and jobs and money, most of that money actually gets thrown back into their respective countries
yes,
instead of our American economy. That's the way I
yes.
see it, and that's a bad thing.
That's a whole thing in economics that we definitely don't have time for. But you're absolutely right. That is true. I don't know how bad it is. There's other things, but you're 100% right. We covered earlier immigrants courts dismissing it. The court immigrant courts dismissing immigrants sent to El Salvador. They're like, well, they're out. That's too bad. The person that made the ruling was out of his jurisdiction. That's it. We covered that. Pardoning criminals that plotted to kidnap Governor Gretchen Whitmer. What the heck? He's pardoning people that tried to kidnap the governor, bro. What the heck is that?
Again, he's just playing to his base, and that's the answer of
That's
it.
crazy. Yo, they
Hold on,
plotted to
hold on.
kidnap the governor. What the? Really? Now you can kidnap government. Well, I guess if you can kill government federal cops and get pardoned, I guess that's not too big of a deal. It's what we do in this country now.
If you're not guilty of anything, pre-pardon you to 2014 or convicted
25% tariffs
or
on
felon.
iPhones not made in the US. 25% tariff on iPhones not made in the US when there's no US factories yet because they're trying to build factories in India.
Well,
Do you think that he's right on that?
yes, because he's trying to leverage Apple to stay over here since we're a high consumer of it and just make it here. That way, the money can stay here and circulate. So,
But it's
the
not
job,
made here. It's made in China. It's not
well,
made here.
Apple, yes, I'll concede to that. But again, China should open up an Apple factory here instead of us depending on them. Or just buy Android like me and not crapple.
Okay. Well, I can understand the reasoning behind it. I don't know that it's going to make
Am
phones
I biased?
cheaper. Okay. I
China.
don't know if you can tariff a particular company legally. I don't think that's how tariffs work. As a matter of fact, the courts are starting to step in about tariffs, and the 10% tariff that's been levied across the board has now been blocked. This is the one loss he took. The courts blocked the across the board tariffs that Trump levied at 10% based on his Resurrection Day or Freedom Day or whatever the hell he called it.
What was the question?
How do you feel about the fact that he took a loss on the tariffs and that the courts are actually that have been for him and gave him so many unbelievably big wins this week actually said, but this you're going too far. You've overstepped your boundaries on tariffs. Since that's not
This
your
is my thoughts and feelings. Checks and balances, the way it works out in this book, not democracy.
fair enough.
Which the word
It
is
is
not.
what it is. Walmart prices are up. Are you still debating that?
No, I'll buy from Walmart because we don't have it in New York City.
Yes, you do. Well, not in the city. No, I go to Long Island. I used to go to Long Island.
Exactly. We don't want to hear.
Well, MAGA Mike admitted his constituents will lose their benefits. He has in his district, or Ruby Red district, more people on Medicaid than any other place in America. And he had to admit that, yo, if this bill goes through, MAGA Mike admitted that they will lose their benefits. And if, no, I'm sorry, he didn't say Medicaid, he said food stamps. I do believe he has more people on food stamps. It will lose Medicaid also, but Rand Paul says that the bill will increase the national debt by 4 to 5 trillion. These are MAGA people talking about the things that are so heinous about this bill that
Meaning
we
they'll
just
side with
discussed.
Democrats, and that's the way it should be, and they'll overturn it. Is that interesting how it works?
I hope to God so.
That's how it should work. So
Well, FEMA grants has been paused.
good.
Hurricane season officially starts next week. How
Mhm.
do you think that's going to affect states that are impacted by hurricanes?
That means that they're going to have to be more efficient with the tools and budgets they have locally. Because if you remember history again, what happened to North Carolina under their previous administration with FEMA and how they used their FEMA to actually not give funding to certain Republican areas because they supported Uncle Trump. So that was weaponization, and there should be a big investigation of that. Understand?
Okay, well, FEMA, for as good and as bad, has saved millions of lives. They help
Caused
people.
millions
You
of
have
lives
people.
to be lost. Ask Hurricane Katrina.
That's true.
Ooh, I struck a
100% fact.
nerve. I brought it home for you.
No, I mean, I don't argue facts. It's a think tank. That's a whole thing to look at it from both sides and try and bring the facts. And FEMA has caused quite a great deal of damage. And so the program should be reformed, but taking away funding from
This
all of the
is
places. I mean, you got people right now that's hurting in ruby red states. That's blood red states because they're bleeding.
like North Carolina because of the previous administration when it happened to them. But Ron DeSantis again has said Florida has this down to the science, and they're doing just fine. So why is Florida getting that good, like education good, as opposed to the other states with FEMA and its
It's
mismanagement?
funny. It's funny you should say that because actually, what he said was that FEMA being defunded was going to hurt his state going into hurricane season.
Well, again, look at what happened in California with the fires and what Mayor Karen, I think her name was, and the mismanagement of that with FEMA. President Trump said to her face, I don't think I'm going to be dealing with this anymore.
So you're agreeing with completely instead of trying to reform
It is returning.
these.
Error from it.
I'm sorry.
They are reforming it. Did he say he's going to get rid of FEMA entirely?
He's defunding it.
That's reform.
So they're not
This
going
is
to have
that.
the access to the funds to help people that need it. That's what he's doing.
Just like when they defund education, it's always a dance every cycle to scare people. Every time there's a budget, every year there's a lobby day. So this is a dance that goes across a lot of agencies fighting for the purse. Happens all the
It's
time.
ironic that the majority of the people that are complaining about this are the blood red states that are going to be
They have
hit.
to pay to that base, and they'll have to work with the Democrats on this one. So good.
Well, he doesn't. Well, I mean, listen, it's going to happen. Defunding FEMA the way he's doing it, like you said, with a sledgehammer rather than a fine tooth comb. Well, so and you were right. So far, the bill has not passed because, but you have some Republicans that want even more money taken out of Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security.
And like I said, Donald Trump doesn't want that.
When the House said they didn't want all of these cuts, he went and had a conversation with them, and the next day they abstained from voting. So obviously, he wants something in that bill to pass because that's it's probably the tax cuts to the rich. What am I thinking? Because he went in
There
and
you
made sure
go.
that bill passed.
I got to get another person on your show that will really go at it with you on these issues. So once again,
Bring a guest. I'm fine with that.
let's bring okay. All right, I gotta, we'll get another episode. I'll send it to him. Yes. So again, Leo, it's in the Senate. That's a fact. We'll see what they slice and dice. And then remember, what's the next step? It has to go to the president's desk. And what powers does he have? He can either sign off of it or he could veto it
Well,
and
he's
it's
in there going to the chamber talking about he feels good. The house he came out when he came out from the house, he said he felt good. It was a good meeting. He had that after the day after they did not pass the bill, he went in and had a good meeting with. He came out of that chamber. He said he had a good meeting, had a good feeling about it. Things went well, and the next day, with no changes to that bill, it passed. That's what happened 2 weeks ago, and finally, all of these taxes and tariffs and the bond yields are up. For those of you who don't know what a bond is, I'll explain it quickly. When the government borrows money, it does it in the form of a bond. So other countries and huge people with huge money will borrow the money. The yield is the interest rate. So if I borrow $100 and the yield is 12%, I make 12%. So instead of paying me back $100, you got to pay me back $112. The yield's going up means that now, if it went up 4%, no, the yield's going up means that the interest is lower. My apologies. So if the yield's going up 4%, that means I can get 4% less. That means now if I give you $100, you only got to give me 8%. So now you don't got to pay me $108 back. The yield's going up makes the bonds worth less, which means people are less likely to invest. The way this country works, we spend more money than we make. What keeps this country afloat is the bond market. People knowing that the U.S. is going to pay back its bonds or its loans. With the market taking a hit, with the U.S. credit taking a hit, people are not investing into the country as much, which means the United States has to build its own bonds. That is going to cause inflation, the likes of which this country has never seen, because that's what bonds are. They're loans. So if you've got to borrow money from yourself, basically, then your money becomes less valuable. You can't borrow money from yourself. People are not going to borrow. People are borrowing less. The United States is taking a hit, and it's basically because of these tariffs and this bill. So, do you think that Trump is still making the right decisions based on the fact that our credit's gone down and bond yields have gone up?
The answer is I don't know because again, economics is not my strong suit. But just like he being the master of the art of bankruptcy, I'm sure he's up to something.
What you just said was what my worst fear was when I saw him go into office. As many people, I don't know if the Democrats watch fiscal things that way. That's more a Republican thing to watch the money. But the thing that scares me the most is him to run the country the way he runs his businesses, committing fraud and declaring bankrupt, not paying people and declaring bankruptcy. So far, he's done two out of the three. And
Okay.
if the country declares bankruptcy, I don't think you want to know what that means.
And Dion, do you have buyer's remorse for your vote for Uncle Trump on the Conservative Party line? The answer is still no. Like most of the people, 90 people who the student loans came back, like me and my other homegirl. Hey, do you regret voting for Trump? Nope. So still Democrats are down here. Uncle Trump is up here. Isn't it interesting?
It is. It appears that regardless of all of these incredibly bad things that are happening, like the
So
government being able to determine what you can go to, what your kids will be eligible to go to school for, not based on finances or anything other than what they think about you as a person. So now you won't be able to elevate outside of your caste level. This is might as well become India, despite of all of it. That's what's in the bill. We just read it. We just read it. I mean, you can become an entrepreneur and become rich without going to college. That's a fact. So there's, other methods, means, and
and
ways.
people with degrees work for people without degrees. 70% of college students don't use their degree for what it's for. Remember all these cliches, Leo?
That's true, but they were able to get jobs that they wouldn't be able to get, like myself as an educator. When I wasn't able to find work, I was able to use my degree to find work, like many,
What's
like
your
most people
degree
with
in?
degrees.
What is your degree in for your purpose? What is your degree in? What's that say behind you?
One is for film, the other is for psychology.
Why aren't you in those respective fields?
Psychology sucks, and film I'm working on.
Exactly. So you should ditch education because that's not your passion or your purpose and just do this. Whereas my degree's in film as well, and I'm in politics. So how'd that happen? You see what I'm saying? That's what Trump is trying to talk about when you owe loans, not to City College, but to Metropolitan College, and you're not really getting ROI. Whereas if I would have did something like one,
If you didn't have your degrees, would you be where you're at in politics? Would I be able to get an education? So the degrees are paying off.
yes,
They're
that's
not
why
in the field
you,
you want,
well,
but
I don't need them. I don't need them for politics. Whereas education, you need them. Understand? In politics, I could be a felon and not even know how to read and still be successful. It's happened. A
well,
very
Trump knows how
forgiving
to read.
field.
Trump knows how to read, but the the degrees open up possibilities that you cannot get by going to
That's what they
trade school.
brainwash people with, and that's not really accurate. We're still thinking that
You're
degrees.
talking to somebody who became a teacher with a degree. You're talking to the wrong person. You're telling me it's not true, and I lived it. What are you talking about?
How many people that work in education with a GED that are successful?
Well, a GED depends on what state you're in. For
Again,
instance, in Texas, quite a few actually.
well, there you go. So what's the use of having the degree where you could be a school safety agent in the school and do more help than an actual teacher with your GED? Happens all the time.
So school safety in a school is doing more than a teacher, and that is why this conversation is going the way it goes. And so you would want the first. So if you was going to send your kid to school, which you don't have kids, I understand. If you was going to send your kid to school, would you want them to go with school safety and no teacher? What the hell are you talking about?
Hashtag school choice because me, I'm more inclined now with the climate and the National Black Home Educators to just homeschool my child because it's a big trend in Black America.
Yes, and vast majority of kids that are being homeschooled are being schooled by people that don't have an education themselves. That's going to make America stronger, I'm sure,
What
because
homeschool
that is
failure
what's
have you ever
happening.
met in life? What kind of
Quite a
homeschool
few.
failure have you met in life?
Wait, how many homeschool what?
How many people that are failures in life or criminals are actually saying, I dropped out of homeschool. This is what made me this way.
They're not saying it, but all you got to do is look at statistics. But numbers,
What's the
once you look at
difference?
statistics, you'll be like, oh, people
Homeschool
with
is
higher
education.
educations are less likely to end up in jail and do crime unless it's white collar crime. Then they're higher. But the people on the streets committing crime, vast majority of them don't have college degrees. People with college degrees tend to do less of those crimes.
But who is the most educated with the educated degrees? What demographic, Leo?
Black women.
and see how
And
great they are, right, for this country and all the wonderful things, all opportunities, right?
look, go. When's the last time you've been to a hospital or school
Do it,
or
don't let.
any institute? Look around and see who you see.
Okay. So what about everybody else?
Well, you're going to take choices away from them. You're going to take. What about us? Me and
They're
you went
not
to
doing it.
school. We're
Right.
not in the streets selling drugs. Why? Because we have better options. Because we was able to go to school and make. Even if you don't use your degree, you was able to. For that, you went to school and made something
But
that
guess
was
what?
able to bring
If
you
I
better
if
options. Didn't
if
you
I
used to
took
be a substitute teacher? Didn't you need your degree for that?
I just stopped that as well. All right. Let's talk
Didn't you
about
need your degree for that?
yes. But what I did need my degree for is something that I got at City College was working for UPS in order to have the tuition reimbursement program. We're making some more extra government cheese. Now, why do I say that? You don't need a degree to work at UPS. Like Biggie said, you don't need a degree to be a garbage man. But now my colleagues who stuck it out at UPS are making six figures. Isn't that interesting? With just UPS. And that's the point the president's made. Even sometimes I have regret that I cashed out my pension after 3 years after leaving. Because if I were to stay in the union with your UPS, I would be making six figures now, as opposed to trying to be a business owner as a consultant, entrepreneur, where I'm still hustling. Understand? And that's what he's saying. The more people who go into trades or unskilled labor like UPS, they actually come out a little bit on edge. And Biggie, if you like the rap music, he compared it very eloquently, being a congressman.
So you're saying that because some people can't make it and so other people struggle and it takes a while to get there, that we should have predetermined destinies. That's insane. Anyway, my time is up. If you're enjoying the conversation, you want more of this, you can subscribe, like, follow us. It really helps us out. We're looking to try and get to 100,000. Please show us your support. And Dion's giving you his business. It'll be tagged in the description. You'll be able to see how you can contact him. Thank you for watching. This is LC signing out.